Hello and welcome back to Paup-Up video from your friends at Superliminal Games. My name is Max and we are back once again, slinging the commons, playing the pauper, all that good stuff here on Superliminal Games YouTube. Now, if you've joined us before, you know what you're about to see. You're about to see some paper pauper. But before I get into the next part of all the description of what we're going to do, which you probably already know a little bit because of the title, I want to thank two very important people who helped us out. First and foremost, I'd like to thank Mr. Alex Ullman, ambassador of the format and the man who has been paupering since Pauper's been pauper. Literally, I read my first ever pauper article, which was one he wrote for Star City about tortured existence, and it was the first deck I ever built in pauper not too long ago when I really picked up the format in paper. The second is none other than a pillar of the community, and that would be the professor from Tolarian Community College, who really went over and above in spreading the word for us about this particular product. So gentlemen, thank you so much for your help. We deeply appreciate it here at Superliminal Games. Down to business. We have Slivers that was suggested by Mr. Alex Ullman himself. We have Affinity, the evil robot overlords, battling against the pointy worm things. We are going to watch these two very aggressive, very fair decks battle it out in the pauper arena. So hold on to your pointy worm things or metal guy. Here we go. Alright, we got a short deck tech here because we have a very single focus deck. It's the One Punch Mana decks. It is Pauper Slivers. You can see the lands here. We're just trying to cast spells. We don't want tap lands. We want to hit the curve. We want our colors, but we're not willing to sacrifice a whole lot for them. And now getting into the creatures, you can see why. We have white creatures, green creatures. That's it. We have low-to-the-ground creatures, 1-drops, 2-drops. Like Merfolk, we're trying to cast our lords and overwhelm the opponent quickly with the sheer numbers. And the spells are the final complement, the final piece of the whole thing, the piece de resistance, removal, card advantage, pump. We want to win fast. This deck is an avalanche building, and it's gonna crash. Alright, game number one, here we go. We got the slivers, we got the hand, we got the spells, we got the land. Yeah, it looks good. Looks real good. Got a lot of 1-drops, got a lord to pump them, got a backup pump spell. Paul's kind of got it all here. Starting off with a Sidewinder, giving flanking, the ever-popular flanking. Passes it over to Jared, who is slowly drawing a card. But, yeah, this sliver deck can definitely end up snowballing pretty quickly, and that's part of the reason why it's so attractive in the format, is because, kind of like Merfolk in Modern, the deck has a lot of lords, and there's no other deck that really plays that strategy at Common, so pretty neat. Jared going to lead off with a Springleaf Drum. That way if he plays a creature next turn, he'll be able to tap the creature right away. Because remember, Summoning Sickness only applies to tapping the creature for an activated ability or to go into combat. Neither of which the Springleaf Drum is doing. It's simply tapping the creature as part of the Springleaf Drum's effect. And here's the lords we were talking about. Starting off right with a Sinew Sliver, the color shifted one. So getting in there for 2. The always awkward playing your creatures in your pre-combat main phase. But you have to do that with the slivers because you want the benefits. And that benefit was 1 extra damage. Twice as much damage. Just for playing a creature pre-combat. So we'll see what Jared can answer back with, because there's already 2 2/2s on the board on turn 2. So he has a lot of work to do to overcome this board state, but this Affinity deck is able to generate A, a lot of creatures, and B, a whole heck of a lot of big creatures on the cheap. It can generate 4/4s for 2. Like right now he could play a Carapace Forger and it would match up well against Paul's board, just for the 2 mana he has out. The other benefit he could do is drop a lot of smaller creatures. Like right now we see him paying 1 for Frogmite because of Affinity. So that's pretty awesome, getting the discount there. Looks like he's going to immediately tap the Frogmite for the Springleaf Drum's ability, which we just talked about earlier. And he is going to go ahead and commit the, again, previously mentioned Carapace Forger. So now Jared's got a 4/4 capable of blocking. Now we know Paul's got a Mutagenic Growth. That will help get him out of some sticky scenarios when it comes time for combat. Plus the flanking will give that Carapace Forger -1/-1. So We see another Lord in his hand with the muscle, and it looks like he's adding a Sentinel here, which isn't too relevant yet. No land to cast multiple Slivers, because if he went muscle into plated there, would be pretty nasty, but just muscle on its own, and still the ability to mutagenic growth, seems pretty good. As the Sidewinder and the Sinew come crashing in. Two 3/3s coming in. The board with 3 3/3s there for Paul, which is pretty insane. We see he puts the flanking on there for -1/-1, and he's going to go ahead and pump that Sliver up by +2/+2 at the cost of 2 life. So now he has a bigger Sliver. He's going to smack in for some damage with that 3/3 Sinew and kill that Carapace Forger. Keep the pressure on Jared there as they make sure that the life totals are correct. And they are, because you can see they're in the graphics. So we got that benefit going for us. Jared drawing a card for turn. He has some ground to make up here, so we'll see what he can commit to the board. Oh, it's a good one. It's one of the flagship cards of this deck, the Atog. It's an oldie but a goodie. Great art. Had great art the whole time. Even the Mirrodin art I liked a lot. The Puddinhead art, quite good. Not just an Atog either. Chromatic Star. Very cool. So that'll give him a good blocker, the ability to draw a card. He's got plenty of game, plenty of action from that Atog. But Atog's only one creature, and Paul looks like he's going to start going wide here with his Slivers. So we'll see what he ends up committing to the board here. Looks like he's a little choked on white, so he's only going to be able to commit one of those 3 white spells. But plated is plenty good, giving all the creatures +0/+1, allowing them to attack now as not just 3/3s, but 3/4s. Pretty unpalatable. It looks like no blocks there from Jared. So, you know, desperate times, right? Like the Atog would have to sack a good deal of his board in order to block, and even one artifact would not be enough. So he has to do something, because the flanking would give a -1/-1 plus the 3/3. Even one artifact isn't enough for the Atog, so he has to come up with another plan here. But again, this Affinity deck can spit out quite a few creatures, so no big deal, just something we need to concern ourselves with for sure. Oh, we got a Mirror Enforcer here, quite a nice one. Gonna play that down. And looks like a follow-up. Oh, it's going to cost them the Frogmite, so that's a little scary. Us, only another Springleaf Drum. Okay. A little bit of a dangerous territory we're in here. Okay, counting up artifacts is a good sign. Okay, he's got another Mirror Enforcer with different art. Shame on the person who built this deck. You know who you are. So we have 2 Mirror Enforcers and an Atog capable of blocking these 4 Slivers that could come crashing in next turn. The Sliver that gives haste, and there is a Sliver that gives haste, of course, all Slivers gain haste, is red, as you may have expected. So we don't have to quite worry about haste out of this deck. Jared doesn't know that. He doesn't know that Paul's on strictly green-white Slivers. He just knows he's on Slivers. Alright, because this Sliver could pump all the other creatures in response, it looks like Jared's going to go ahead and he's going to sack the Chromatic Star to the Atog to give the Atog +2/+2, which is kind of irrelevant in this scenario, and draw him a card. So what benefit that has is if he draws a Galvanic Blast, he can, because of the Springleaf Drum, use a Galvanic Blast on one of the Slivers before this plated resolves. Once the plated resolves, now they have a 5-butt, and the Galvanic Blast becomes not quite as effective with its 4 damage output. So definitely a smart heads-up play by Jared there. Nicely done. And Paul crashing in with the wall of beak-nosed worm things known as Slivers. Worms with arms and beaks. I don't know. Let me know what you think a Sliver looks like down in the comments. But they're weird. And Muscle's one of the weirdest because it's got teeth. So they're very odd. Odd group of things here. Paul going to pay a green to play a Mutagenic Growth this time and pump that unblocked Sliver up to 5. So it's going to put Jared down to 1. And Jared sacking both Mirror Enforcers to the Atog in order to survive, I believe, the Muscle Sliver attack, making it a 5/6, then a 4/5 because of flanking. So A little bit of a complex board state, thanks to good old flash. See, this mechanic wasn't so great. Like, could just give the creature +1/+1 instead of a blocking creature -1/-1. It's very conditional. Makes commentating a little bit tougher, but you know, it's about as tough as it gets with the Sliver deck because it's not a very complex deck. So we'll see what Jared can follow up with here. He needs to vomit out a whole lot more creatures, so it's got to start with a Thought Cast if he has any chance of getting back in this game. I do appreciate the Frogmite hiding down there with the lands. Oh, he noticed. Okay. He's got very little mana to work with, unfortunately. And we saw two of the Mirror Force. Okay. Prophetic Prism. Yep, you got to play in the middle, Jared. Prophetic Prism comes down. Going to draw him a card. That's a good way to start. It's another artifact to sack to the ATOG. We'll see what we can get here. Looks like he's considering. This is usually the kind of play you make when you don't have a whole lot. And Citadel not even played in the middle. That's okay. We'll forgive him here. He's on the back foot trying to come up with something. There's the Thought Cast. Okay. This is the start of how you put something together. Land plus removal spell could get him out of this. Or a creature plus removal spell. He needed a Frogmite plus removal spell. Well, that wouldn't get him out of it. I don't know. He'd have to draw probably more than what he has at this point. I don't see a real way to cobble together even enough blockers to deal with this army. Unfortunately. There's a Frogmite. So, do we have anything else? 2 more creatures. 2 more Frogmites. How about a Mirror Enforcer? It's pretty much what we need. Mirror Enforcers and Frogmites. Nope, he's passing it back. Doesn't look too good. Could block and throw a Galvanic Blast at something if he has it, but don't know. There's the Spinneret Sliver. It is just 2. Okay, it's not a 3-coster. That was my fault. I thought it was 3. It's 2. So there's barely anything in this deck that costs more than 2. Just O-Ring and Lead the Stampede, so not too bad. Sentinel Sliver coming down, giving everything Vigilance. Not really necessary, but why not? If you got it, flaunt it, I suppose. No big deal. And it looks like unless Jared has some kind of instant speed effect, he's kind of done for here. Blockers are declared. Damage done. Game over. Alright, here we go. We're sideboarding for Game 2. As you can see, the plan here is to take out some of the lower impact Slivers, as well as commune with nature. And we're going to put in some things that maybe in a combat situation will be able to kill a bunch of creatures, and some damage prevention. So pretty straightforward game plan for the Slivers deck going into Game 2. Alright, Game 2 underway. We got a Tree of Tails right out of the gate from Jared. And he's going to follow up with a Chromatic Star. He's going to pass it over to Paul, who is going to draw another land. Another good mix of land and spells from Paul. Nice curve, and that's really what the Sliver deck is trying to do. Get out on a good curve, so we can see being on the play quite important, because Jared, on the other hand, going to try to build up a critical mass of resources and then vomit discount cards onto the board. So both strategies valid. Both strategies want to commit to the board as quickly as possible. So being on the play, a big deal. And here we go. The biggest smile in Magic, the ATOG, coming down. Well, maybe not the biggest. Probably Psychotog gets the biggest. Second biggest smile in Magic. The biggest in Pauper is the ATOG coming down there for Jared. Paul going to follow up his turn 1 plated with a Sinew Sliver, and going to pass it back. Blocking is a concern here. The ATOG already has 3 things that can pump it, so Jared can get that ATOG up to 7 damage already. It's a base 1/2, so things can spiral out of control quite quickly. Yes, but the card's in the middle, Jared. So he is going to tap his Great Furnace that he just played for a Springleaf Drum, correctly placed in the middle. Very nice, and you can see that ATOG now already has 5 delicious targets. Can come in for over half of Paul's life total. So, may not have necessarily been the time to block here, but the ATOG's going to get +2/+2, which is relevant here as we're in combat, and the plated is going to be gobbled up, losing everything a butt pump. But the ATOG's scary. If Jared has a burn spell or a fling and Paul doesn't block, Jared could win the game on the spot. So I understand the block. I may have risked not blocking, but let me know in the comments what you think he should have done there. That's an interesting move. Alright, we have Carapace Forger into Thoughtcast. You can see how explosive this Affinity deck comes into the game. It's turn 3. He has 2 creatures, an extraneous artifact, and 3 land, and he's already drawn 2 additional cards. Both kept 7s, so that puts Jared ahead in the card advantage race, and probably way ahead in the card quality race as Paul commits another 2/2 to the board. Or sorry, yeah, no, they're 3/3s now, because they're base 1/1s, each getting +2/+2. And now they're getting another pump from the plated, and Paul's going to go ahead and crack in. If you're not blocking, might as well be attacking. So, 3 damage to Jared. They're confirming that life total change. Very good. Clean magic. Clean magic, as important as any other skill. You can play quickly and look cool and tap and flourish and point your finger and flick your cards, but the real key to getting better at magic is playing nice, clean magic. Not necessarily putting your cards in the middle, which Jared's constantly forgetting, but play that clean magic, play your cards with intent, think your turn through. You can see Jared starting off with a thought cast to give him more fuel going into this combat step. So here we go with a Frogmite. Again, seems a little strange to be playing creatures pre-combat, but that's more food for the ATOG. Paul really has to respect what this ATOG can do in terms of damage, so it's like he has to give up yet another blocker just to keep the ATOG from ending Paul's life. Because it looks like he's going to commit a Mere Enforcer to the battlefield again. That means he has 8 artifacts on the battlefield at least. So that ATOG can swing for nearly lethal here. 3, 6, 7, 8 artifacts. Yeah, 8 artifacts on the board. With the ATOG unchecked, that can be lethal. Ooh, looks like we're going to get double sack to the ATOG. A very fancy set of sacking to the ATOG. But just +2/+2 per artifact, no matter how many times you flourish. Jared, no matter how many times you flourish. So, takes down the plated as we figured it would. And he's like, another Carapace Forger. His board is 3 4/4s and a 1/2 that can get gigantic, as well as Frogmite, who is not very bad at a 2/2 body. Paul right now holding a Holy Light, which could impact the board a little bit, but not. You want a big combat step. And unfortunately, the bulk of the Lords in this deck are green, so the Holy Light not quite at its best. If this board was double Sinew plus a green Lord, I think the Holy Light would look a little bit better. But also, as we've seen both games now, this deck very, very light on mana. And we saw it in the deck tech. It's not a very mana-heavy deck. It's just trying to play its spells, which mostly cap out at 2 or 3. So being able to play a spell and to follow up is a tall order for the Sliver deck. And we see a Lord going in front of a set of cards. We see it in front of the ATOG, we see it in front of a Mere Enforcer, and we see it in front of a Carapace Forger. I wonder why he didn't block... Well, he clearly blocked the 4/4s. He's trying to maintain a life total here. I kind of like a block on the Frog, but I guess your Lords are going to die, so the Frog will chew through. Well, they'll trade with the Lords, so you're just losing for 2 damage there. So the Carapace Forger and the Mere Enforcer make sense. Jared could have even sacked the Mere Enforcer to the ATOG to pump it. Instead, he sacks some lands, but that leaves 3 creatures to nil, and Jared still gets a chance to play follow-ups if he can. No follow-ups. Luckily for Paul, that was a stroke of luck here. Maybe he can do something. Alright, lots of forests. So it looks like he's going to lead the Stampede here to try to find some Slivers. I don't know if he's got enough time to make this work, but lead the Stampede. Very, very powerful card that was originally an uncommon that got downshifted recently into common. So this can promote quite a bit of card advantage. And you see here he's adding 2 Slivers to his hand, the same amount that Jared's drawing off of thought casts. So pretty powerful, and sometimes this can just draw you 5 cards. So that's pretty insane. What Paul needs is some of the removal effects, I think, here. If he could take out the ATOG, he might be in some kind of shape. But we're going to get a Virulent Sliver here, just a 1/1 that has Poisonous 1, which is not nearly as good as Infect. Doesn't give -1/-1 counters, just gives poison counters in addition to normal damage to a player if it hits a player. If it hits a creature, it simply does its printed damage. So not really an impressive effect, unfortunately, for Paul. And looks like he's going to probably end up having to block the ATOG and take 6 down to 2. And this is nuts. We're not that far into this game. We're on turn 5, I believe. Possibly turn 6. And Jared's going to smack him down. This is exactly, like I said, these decks really want to get things committed to the board. They do it in a different style, but they're both all about fair combat steps, and outside of Fling, for the most part, these are just combat-oriented fair decks that are just trying to, one, vomits all its resources out very quickly, the other plays on a curve that kind of ends up snowballing into insurmountable advantage. So it's a really interesting match to see. Rare you see two fair decks going at it here, but we want to see what these decks can do. They're both low to the ground, good combat-based decks, so looks like a fun matchup. And right now it looks like Affinity might take this game. Let's see what Paul draws. It's a Holy Light, not good enough. He's going to scoop him up. And we're going to go ahead and switch some things up for Game 3. Bringing out the Holy Lights, they're a little bit too mana intensive, not quite impactful enough for their cost. And we're going to go ahead and bring in a few Slivers back, and we're going to go ahead and add Pacifism into the mix. So, a little bit more threat dense, especially good on the play. Alright, we made it to Game 3. Alright, good job everybody. Thanks for sticking with us here at Superliminal Games. We're taking a look at the Slivers. They're going first. Looks like another good curve hand, as Paul's going to start out with the Singleton Metallic Sliver. Pretty good start. That one drop into Lord Plus, or just something else, is exactly what this Sliver deck wants to be doing. Jared starting off with a Great Furnace, played to the middle properly, and a Kark Clan Shaman. Kark Clan Shaman. Kark. Not a word I'm a fan of. Paul's going to follow up with a Lord of the Predatory variety. Get in for 2. Yep, confirming that life total there. Nicely done, gentlemen. And Jared's going to go ahead and take it back. The Kark Clan Shaman can indeed wipe this board right now with one more artifact. There it is, if he so chooses. Nope, going to commit a Springleaf Drum here. Now the Kark Clan can tap for mana and still use its ability, because it is free and it's merely just sacrificing an artifact. No mana in that at all. Carapace Forger. So his turn 2 was land, Springleaf Drum, Carapace Forger, and has the ability to wipe everything but the Carapace Forger off the board. Pretty crazy. Paul going back to Lordtown. Unfortunately can't swing in with a field full of 3/3s. So that 4/4 is going to stonewall him for combat this turn. And Jared looking over his options here, paying a colorless for a Springleaf Drum. Who's got mana and mana and mana and mana. Tapping the Kark Clan Shaman. For a blue, it looks like, to play a Thoughtcast. So not only is he committing more resources to the board right now, he's now going to replace the cards with a few spicy ones into his hand, hopefully. Hopefully for him. Maybe not, depending on who you're rooting for there at home. And he's going to follow up with a Vault of Whispers, followed by good old Smiley, the Atog. So he's got the Atog, he has got the Carapace Forger, who looks like it's getting frisky, coming in for combat, and Paul says no to blocks. Had a chance to take down the Carapace Forger, but doesn't fuel the Atog, puts him in a precarious situation with double blocks because of the Kark Clan Shaman. And it looks like he's going to follow up with yet another Lord, so now we have 4 4/4s here. Make that 5 4/5s. So this board's for real. And we'll see how Paul wants to proceed from here, if he wants to in fact engage in combat. And he does. He says, how many things will you trade to get my Slivers off the board? Jared, no blocks whatsoever, takes a huge hit down to 6. Floats a mana, red mana, and uses it for a Galvanic Blast to Paul's face. Oh boy, that cannot bode well for Paul. He just took 4 damage to the face, down to 12, on a board full of 4/5s. Oh boy. Oh boy. This has to be something. Right now, Combat Step isn't that big, so there's really only one card in the deck I can think it can be. So we'll see if it gets it, if he gets it here. Commits a Mere Enforcer to the board. Still has up enough mana for the kind of flagship trick of the deck. And yep, here it comes. The ATOG getting all kinds of pumps. Oh, that's a big ATOG. That's a big ATOG. And there it is. It is Fling. Fling for 13 points of damage. Directly to Paul's face. And the Sliver deck can't do anything. Paul going down to -1. And yeah, he's dead. So that's another Pauper match in the books. So I just want to thank you all for taking the time to watch with us. And I really hope you enjoyed it. If you do, please, please, please give it a like. Please subscribe to our channel. You can do that right below the video. And if you can, ring the little bell that's there. That helps tremendously. And of course, if you're a social media-er, please do share this video if you can. We'd really, really appreciate it. Every eye we can get on this really helps grow this product, grow our channel, so it all really helps kind of, feed back into this Ouroboros of entertainment that we want to bring to you at Superliminal Games. So, final thoughts for the matchup are that obviously the deck on the play really had a distinct advantage. It could start putting resources down first. Second thing is the Slivers deck generated a really nice curve pretty much every game. It really came down to if the Affinity deck could start sticking those 4/4s quickly or not. In the games that Jared could establish those 4/4s very quickly, or the ATOG with additional resources, Paul really struggled to overcome that. Whereas in that first game, we saw Paul able to get ahead and stay firmly ahead with those Slivers, and that's exactly what that deck's trying to do. So I don't think there were any specific misplays. If you thought there were, please let us know down in the comments. But I don't see anything that was a distinct misplay, in my opinion. I think both players played very, very well. I think the Affinity deck just has a higher card quality. And I also, full disclosure, after that first game, I was the one who kind of talked Paul into bringing in the Holy Light, because I thought it'd be really, really good in combat situations. Like, we saw Jared game 1 struggling to keep creatures on the board during combat, especially in concert with flanking, as well as the Lords. So I thought, hey, in a great combat situation, that Holy Light could be a complete blowout. But it ended up being too expensive for Paul to really capitalize with in practice. So I think that he had a better configuration going into game 3. It just seemed a little unfortunate that Jared was able to put together a lot of artifact resources, plus the Fling ATOG combo, which is kind of the premier play of the Affinity deck. So, again, thank you so much, and now's the time to tell you, of course, if you want to see a specific Pauper deck get played on Paup-Up video, we're happy to do that. Just leave us a comment below and tell us, what should we be playing? What should we avoid? What deck do you never want to see us play? What deck do you want to see us play a whole bunch? Do you want to see one we've already played? That'd be a little weird with only 2 episodes, but maybe you're a big fan of Izzet Delver. I don't know. Everybody kind of hates that deck. It's the boogeyman of the format right now. Anyway, if you want to see something specific, please let us know below. Let us know what you liked about this video. Let us know what you disliked about this video. But, be nice about it if you can. We took a lot of suggestions that we got from YouTube, from Reddit, from Twitter, everywhere. We tried to incorporate as much as we could to streamline the games and get the play to be a little bit more efficient. We also made sure to keep everything as high a quality as we did in the first episode, so that you can enjoy the things that you liked, and we pulled out some of the dead air. That was our biggest complaint, was the first one was a little slow. So as you can see, the runtime on this one has come down quite a bit. So if you like that, great. If you want to see a little bit longer of a video, let us know. And of course, the matchups are going to dictate longer or shorter videos to a degree as well. But anyway, let us know everything down in the comments. Just, be kind. These take a lot of effort to put out. There's a buttload of editing. You would not believe the amount of tedium that goes into one of these videos. So until next time, thank you so much for watching, and play more commons.